Amazing. Welcome everybody to our Activated Live week 3. Now, the reason the subjects come up today that I am going to speak into, which is around recognizing whether our resistance is procrastination, self-sabotage, upper limit level, or something else, is because misalignment, whether we're just on the wrong road, right? I kicked off with a new client the other week, and she turned up and she was telling about all of these things she needed to get done, but because she didn't know what to do with any of them, that she just wasn't doing anything. So she was basically like blocking her own growth, because it's like, well, I need this and I need this and need this and need this and need this, and I can't do any of it. So then I don't do anything. And which isn't totally true. Like, she was doing some other stuff, but she kind of wasn't moving the needle forward in a way that was creating any like great momentum for her business. So this brought up this whole thing about, okay, so there are going to be times that things come up in your business where you literally don't know what to do. So for example, it's like, oh, I'm going to launch on, I don't know, say you want to launch on TikTok and you literally don't know how to use TikTok, right? You may need to go on YouTube and understand how to use it, or like, you know, this is a question that comes up, like, what's the right website platform? What's the right program hosting platform? Whatever it is, yeah, you're going to have to do a little bit of research, or, you know, have a mentor that you speak to and you speak about the pros and cons with them. But it shouldn't be completely derailing you from taking action. And so what I see so commonly with people is the reason they're really getting held back from taking action is more of this like upper limit level, as Gay Hendricks refers to it. So he's got a book called The Big Leap. It's like really short, it's like a really quick read. He talks about this upper limit level, and it's where we're kind of conditioned. These are my words, not his, by the way, so I'm doing my own interpretation of it, but we're kind of conditioned in childhood, as I like speak about a lot in all the different places, and Let's Make Money and Experience and everything, where we're conditioned in childhood to almost play small, because we're being safe. So we're conditioned by like our parents' beliefs. So what's possible for us. So, you know, this whole thing about running around our own business, if you're brought up in a household where one of your parents ran a business and money didn't come consider. So there's another one of my clients has this. So her dad is a business owner, a very successful business owner, makes a lot of money, but it comes in like big chunks, and then there'll be nothing. There'll be a complete drought. So it'll rain and then there'll be a drought. It'll rain and there'll be a drought. So she's coming in with this perception of, when I launch my business, I'm not going to have consistent income. I'm going to need to get these like boosts of money to come in, and then I'm going to have to like live in the drought and just try and get by. Or you may have had someone who launched a business like a side hustle, and they always wanted to leave their corporate job, but they never really managed to get it off the ground, and it always stayed at a side hustle. I'm laughing because I have a story linked to that. Or you may have people that have run businesses that just, you know, were really stressful, like always caused this like money problems all the time, because there was never enough and they were always stressed and all these different things. So like from a business perspective, you may have these stories, and it's like, well, actually, it's not safe to launch a business, let alone like go all in and leave your corporate job and do it. So that could be coming up. But then there's just other things that come up in terms of, and I did a post yesterday about 5 steps to feel confident going on an IG live this week, right? Because this is something that comes up so often. And I'm sure I'll do one of these on this at some point, but it's like live camera sells, like seeing someone's energy sells. Like you can see people's knowledge in an Instagram post, but people can just go and copy someone's Instagram post, right? You don't even know if someone's post is their post, right? Have they written that, or have they gone and copied and pasted for someone else who just made some tweaks? Who knows, right? You see someone on camera in live energy, like you see their energy, you see if you want to be around them. So being on live camera, like going live, all these different things, is the best thing you can do for your business, if you're a personal brand, particularly. But so many people have this fear of going on camera. And I did this post, and then someone commented, was like, why do you think so many people struggle with this? And I was like, I haven't responded yet, but like in my head, I'm like, it's reading out loud in class. Like, stick a yes in the chat if you like, you either read out loud in class in primary school and you like were like, you pronounce something wrong, and then you like your whole body like shrinked and you like scared to speak, or you like, so you saw somebody else get laughed at for pronouncing a word wrong. Right? This used to happen all the time. And I used to like be that person who was like reading ahead in case because I never knew what order they're going, but I always wanted to be ahead to make sure I could read all of these words, and then never knew what we were up to because I was getting really scared. And so like, that's just one of the things. Or it could be like another thing, you know, again, I've talked about this story before. I used to be a dancer, and I wasn't a particularly good dancer. I just like loved dancing. I was tall, so I was always made to believe that I was never going to be like a ballerina or anything because I didn't have the right physique for it, wasn't the right height for it. So it was never like I looked at it as it was going to be on my long-term career. Thankfully, things have changed around that. And with, you know, dancers are all like body shapes and sizes and all these different things. But I was always put at the back of the class because I was tall. So it's like this thing about like, well, no one wants to see you. Like, you put at the back of the class. And then in photo, I might have even spoken about this on Activated already. I was tall, so I always used to get put on the back row with the boys on school photos as well. So all the girls were on the front row, and then I was on the back. So I had this constant thing about like, you take up too much space. So again, it's like, well, no one wants to see you. No one wants to see you up here. So those are just like two of the examples. So it can like stop us, and it doesn't feel safe to be seen. But then there's this other element to it of like, how good can it actually be? How good can it actually get? So this upper limit level is like, we can have these stories around like, you can't have a successful career and a happy relationship, or you can't be like a good mum and be a 7-figure CEO, all these different stories. Like, you can't, if I go to run my own business, I have to work all the hours and I'll never be able to work out. So I can't have health and a business, or whatever these different stories are. And like, people have started to create these narratives around like, I can't have both. So then it's almost like, well, I want to be a really good mum. So I'm not going to kind of strive for my dreams, even though like they've come to me, and our dreams come to us for a reason. So it's like, well, they've come to us. So it's obviously like, you know, it's in the quantum, it's happening somewhere. And it's like the message is like getting to try and pull us up to where that is. But it's like, well, you know, no. Because if I have that, I'm going to be a rubbish mum. So I had this story as well. So when I was in corporate, I was like never going to have kids because I didn't want to be an absent mum. Because my dad was an absent dad, because he worked all the time. He worked all the hours. He was away all the time. And this is what I was like in corporate. I worked these really long hours. I was away all the time. I'd be away on like shoots or whatever it was. And I was like, well, I can't be a mum because I'll be away. And so then I had this, which like isn't true. And like, actually, I really want to like rewire that. And actually, if I did ever want to go back to corporate, like knowing that I can put boundaries in place and like work different hours, so that's a side thing. But again, when I was launching my business, it was like, okay, well, you know, there's only a certain level of like success I can have, because like the more clients I take, who's else got the story, like to make more money, I need more clients, which means I need to work more hours. But again, that's not true, because your business expands and gets, you know, bigger. You're going to put your prices up. You're going to do one-to-many programs. So you're teaching like more people at once, and you're not necessarily working more, right? So that's that. So yeah, so this upper limit level. So this upper limit level comes up in basically to self-sabotage us without us consciously self-sabotaging. So, and I've been on a journey with this because Leah, who's in the room at the moment, like we did a program together, and it was very much focused around energetics, and like and the teacher would like teach, you know, being in the right energy to do stuff. So it was like, only post on social media if you're like in the right energy, because people read your energy, and the energy you're in when you wrote it, the energy you're in when you post it, like people really feel it. And then what I started to do was taking that to an extreme and then never posting, because I'm just not in the energy right now. Or I wrote in like a really great energy, and then I was like tired and the kids are around and I was feeling a bit distracted. And it's like, well, I'm not going to post it now because it's going to fall flat on its face. So I just won't post at all. And then like 3 weeks go by and it's like, well, I'm not feeling that post anymore, so I'm never going to post it. And then I've got this whole content bank of like stuff I'd never posted. And that for me, I feel like I was using that as a self-sabotage thing. So it's like, okay, if I post this and it doesn't do well, that's going to make me feel rubbish. So rather than feel that feeling of feeling rubbish, I'm just not going to do it. So I don't have to feel rubbish, right? So the other thing we have to do as a side note is transcend above that and kind of accept that a post doing well or not doing well on paper in terms of like number engagement and stuff. I'm going to do a post on this week, actually. Engagement doesn't equal sales. Engagement has no reflection on sales. Engagement is going to help growth. Yes. Having great engagement is going to tell the algorithm to show your content to more people, and you'll grow your audience. And then you might call in more aligned clients who then go and buy off you. So yes, in that way, but you can make sales off like your worst performing posts, like on performing as in like their reach, their likes, their saves, all these different things. You just need one person to like completely resonate with that post. And I've had this so many times where when I used to do like more of the health stuff, and I would do a post like signs and symptoms of low estrogen, and then I literally get like a message going like, I've got every single one of these, what do I do? And I'd be like, work with me, and then DM me going, yeah, cool, right, when do we start? Here's your pay in full. Like that's literally happened, and not necessarily a post that's done really well. So that's a side note. It's like we need to detach this like engagement thing on like what it means about money and performance and sales and all these different things, because engagement and sales are two different things. Okay, so going off on one. Yeah. So anyway, so if we are stopping ourselves posting because we feel like we may get like trolled or we might get questioned or all these different things, we're basically self-sabotaging, because we have to post for our soul line clients to see us. We have to post. And I'm like looking at Leah, so proud of it, because I've really seen your content like ramp up, and like you're selling on your stories and all these different things. So I'm like well chuffed with you right now. But we need to get out of our own way. So yeah, so these different things. So there's the actual, so there's like this self-sabotage in terms of like using things as excuses, like me using that excuse of like, I'm not in the right energy, so I'm not going to post. Someone who came on one of my podcast, on the Iconic podcast, actually said a really good line. She was like, it is literally my job to post on social media. Is literally my job. If my job was social media manager and I went to work and I was like, I'm not in the right energy today, I'm not going to do any posts for you. And it's like, well, hang on, I'm paying you to create content for me. And that's literally what we're here to do, right? We're here to like create content, or it doesn't have to, you know, wherever your channel is, whether you're a podcaster or you're Pinterest or you're TikTok or your Instagram or you're like, wherever you are, we do Facebook groups, like wherever you are, if it is literally your job to go and give value and let your people know that you can help them, right? So you may be like using an excuse like that and self-sabotaging. You may be using excuses like, you know, well, I don't know what website platform to use, so I just won't do anything. Or you may be unconsciously self-sabotaging because of this upper limit level and this almost like this belief of how does it get to be this good? And the other thing that Gay Hendricks talks about is that, and this like really resonated, because sometimes we think, how can it get this good? How can it be this good? So then we self-sabotage in areas. So it's almost like we like, for example, like we force, or like we're not doing this consciously, we're not like openly doing this, but your relationship's going really well. And then you like nitpick at your partner and cause an argument, for example. And when he was talking about this, it really resonated, because there's somebody else's book, and I wish I could remember who it was. I want to say it's the person who wrote, she's a really funny writer that she's 3 different books. Let me just come bookshelf quickly. If anyone's on the audio, it'll come back to me later. I'll maybe put it in the show notes. Oh, you're a badass at making money. You're a badass at whatever, like you're a badass, like that series. I'm sure it's hers, because I think I listened to it on audio. It's either her or Amanda Francis. I think it was her. Could have been Amanda Francis. Who said that like things were going really, really well. And then she kept thinking she was going to die. And it was like, I resonate with this, because a couple of weeks ago, I was like having one of my successful months in business, and I started to have all these fears, like I had this like lump on my head, which I was telling you about, wasn't I? I had this lump on my head, and I was like, oh my God, like I really need to get this looked at, because I don't know if I'm going to live. And then started like freaking out about the future of my kids, and like, oh, this isn't enough. I need to make even more money, because I need this, like all of the money they need for like when I'm gone, and like just started to totally freak out. And it's this thing is like, can it actually be that good? And it's like, can I question, is it good? Like, maybe it's not going to be as good, I'm going to die. So that's another little like side note. Anyway, sorry. As usual, I'm channeling, going off on a different subject. So next time you find yourself in this place where like you're procrastinating, or you're like avoiding doing the thing, or you, whatever it is, I want you to start to ask yourself, am I procrastinating because I'm just not in alignment? It's just not what I want to do anymore. So like, I'm really having this with my health stuff, because I really want to pivot out of the health business and go full time on my business coaching business. But I still run this group program, which is very profitable and is very low touch for me. So it makes no sense not to run it, like just keep running that back to back. But obviously I need to create content to get people warm. So every time I launch it, they're going to buy it, right? But I've like got this resistance to like creating the content, and it's not through a lack of content. I've got a whole 12-week program. I could go into my content and copy and paste like any micro part of that 12 weeks and turn it into an Instagram post. And I've got enough content for it probably for about 3 years. Do you know what I mean? It's not like I haven't got the content there. It's not that I haven't got the stuff to teach. It's more like, oh, do I want to be like dedicating energy to this space when it's not actually where I want to be like long term? And like, do I actually want to be dedicating this energy over here? And that's like a very real question. That's a very real question that I need to answer. It's like, actually, do I just want to keep doing it? Am I ready to turn my back on that, you know, that passive income that comes through from just launching that program 4 times a year or not? At the moment, I don't feel like I am, but, you know, maybe one day. But yeah, is this resistance coming up because you don't feel in alignment with what you're teaching? So again, when I was doing the fertility stuff, I talked about this, like fertility stuff was so hard. It was like, oh, I've got to post on social media because I didn't want to do fertility. But when I do business content, I literally write 6 posts at a time. And I'm like, which one am I going to do? Because I've got so many ideas right now. And I have more content than I'll ever post because I'm just constantly getting new ideas coming up. So is there a resistance and a misalignment? And you actually just need to think about, am I serving my soul aligned clients? Is this actually what I want to be doing? Or do I need to start pivoting into something I love? Or is it consciously self-sabotaging? Or is it a bit of this upper limit level of how does it get to be this good? Right, let me just check my notes because I did write some things down that I wanted to speak into. Make sure I don't forget. Is this landing? Put a Y in the chat if it's landing, or put an emoji or put something so I know it's landing. Yeah, so this other thing I wanted to say was like, and Tony Robbins talks about this, like we're wired to move away from pain more than we are to move to pleasure. So like, obviously we say we want pleasure, like on paper, we all want like the pleasurable activities, the pleasurable experiences, all the different things. But I'm looking out the window because my little boy's walking around the garden. He's got chicken pox and the mother-in-law's here looking after him and he's like just pottering around. But as a species, we want to stay alive, right? So it's like, we want to make sure that we're not putting ourselves in a situation where we're going to die. So if our like body associates this pain with, oh my God, there's a whole subject to not talk about, right? It's just landed. I'm going to come back to this. Right. I'm going to backtrack. Our body's always trying to keep us safe. Okay. Always wants to keep us safe. Now, whether that means it's your safety is what's kept you safe in the past. It's come from learned experience. So even if you're living experience, if your lifestyle, your home, you know, if everything is absolutely horrific, if you grew up in a household where your parents would like fight and argue and there was domestic abuse, or, you know, it could be really serious, but you made it out alive, like your body associates being in those environments as safety, which is why people who've been in those environments can end up bringing in those sorts of partners into their own life and putting themselves in those situations because it's like it's safe. It's like, well, this is what I'm used to and it's safe. And that was a very extreme example. But, you know, for me, it's very safe for me to be a workaholic. I have a lot of evidence in the past that working really hard has got me success, whether that was at school and grades in university, or whether that was in corporate. And then moving into my business, it was like, well, I'm going to work hard and I'll work hard. And I remember someone saying to me, like, you'll be successful at anything you do because you work so hard. And it's like, yeah, I will make this work because I'm going to work so hard and I'm going to work all the hours and I'm going to work weekends and I'm going to work whenever the child's asleep and I'm going to work all the time. And then I can't fail because I work all the time. And it's been such a huge job for me to recondition from this in the last couple of years of like, I get to have a work-life balance. I get to spend time with my kids. I get to spend time with my husband. I get to this last week, I worked out 3 times, right? I used to have an exercise addiction. I've been deconditioning from it. So I took like 5 years away from exercising. So, and I'm just starting again. And I was like, I could have sat down and been writing content, but I was like, no, like my health is most important for my business. So I'm going to exercise and not like think, oh, that hour that I just spent doing that, I should have been using content. Right. Anyway, so our body's keeping us safe. And it's like, okay, this is what I'm used to. This is what feels good. So then we try and do anything different. So if that's like, you know, speaking on stage, you know, what's going to come through, what's going to come with that next sort of step you want to take. So say, for example, you want to run a group program and you've had an experience before where you, okay, let's use a perfect example because I know someone in the room has been through this. Like you've launched before and then it felt like it wasn't worth it based on the return you got. So then it's this story is like, well, there's no point launching because it's not worth it. I'd rather spend my time on the one-to-ones or whatever it is, right? But we need to remember that the future isn't the same as the past. So just because we've experienced that before doesn't mean the future experience needs to be the same, but the body's keeping it safe. It's like, well, I put so much effort into that. It wasn't worth the return. Should have just got a few one-to-ones in, would have made way more money, not going to run group programs anymore, right? So we need to so the body's trying to keep us safe. It's like, well, that pleasure of having that one-to-many program that brings in like 20 grand, you only have to teach, 1 hour a week, could be so much greater, but it feels like too much of a stretch because it's like, well, that's the other thing. So we need to get out of this, like this discomfort of this short-term pain for the longer-term pleasure. And this is where we can give, I'm really going off on one, guys, hope you don't mind. This is where we can give our bodies what we call disconfirming experiences. So we do something different, we get a different result, and then we give new evidence to it. And we constantly need to be giving these disconfirming experiences so that we change the narrative. But if we don't give it those experiences, it stays in the old story and it'll never trust that a new future could be made, for example, right? And then the other thing I want to say on this, if you're not already inside the Let's Make Money Honey experience, use your 30-day trial inside it and jump inside and do the breath work, because breath work helps increase our window of tolerance. It helps us increase our window of like discomfort, basically. So it allows us to sit in discomfort more and helps us like be braver and do more and take the bigger steps, particularly when you're using retentions. Retentions is where we hold the breath at the bottom and we hold the breath at the top. And I guide you through that and you'll notice it as we go through it. But that discomfort of like, am I ever going to breathe again? When's the next oxygen going to come? Because I'm sat in that lack of breath. Like that's really great for increasing your window of tolerance. It's really great for like being in pain and then get that pleasure of the breath. So yeah, I'm going all over. Multiple things I'm saying here. I hope this is making sense. I never know what I've said, right? Because I channel and I'm like, I don't know what I've said. So I don't know if I finish this subject or not. I'll just move on. The other thing I wanted to say is there's a saying, what was he called? I think it's called Fritz Perls or Fritz Perls, something like that. And he said, fear is just excitement without the breath. So the actual biochemical response in the body, they're both driven by adrenaline. They're both adrenaline responses. They're both the same biochemical response. But with fear, we hold our breath, and with excitement, we breathe, right? And so they're both like this sympathetic response. So the way to like move through this whole, like, for example, I'm scared of being, scared of going live on IG. Let's say I keep saying scared of standing on stages, but let's say I'm really scared to go live on IG. It's breathing through that, which is ironic since I've not breathed for like the last 20 minutes, whatever we've been here. It's breathing through that and like changing that narrative to, I'm so excited to go live on IG. I'm so excited to like go live on IG because you've got stuff to teach, right? And you should be excited to get your voice out to the world. You should be excited to be about the prospect of changing people's lives. You should be excited at like, I'm going to say something that today someone's going to watch and it could completely change the whole new direction of their life. It could be like, I don't know, say, I want to give an example, but I can't give people's examples, but yeah, we should be excited about that, right? So it's like reframing this fear and like, I'm excited. So this fear of like, going all in and chasing the business or whatever it is, that keeps coming through as a message. Someone obviously needs to hear that today. It's like, well, instead of being scared of doing it, like get excited about doing it. Yeah. I think that's what I was going to say there. So, and I know we're coming up to half an hour. These always go so fast. Like every time I'm like, I reach like these 15, 20 minutes. But they always have to be about 30. So is anything else coming through? I don't know. So what I want you to do is I want you to go away this week before our next session next week and start to journal out things that you are resisting doing. So whether that is, going live on IG, whether that's putting yourself forward for a podcast that you really want to go on, whether that's like launching a Facebook group. And I want you to look at it and think about the resistance. So for example, I'm in that place of, I've done Facebook groups before and I hated them, absolutely hated them, because I don't use Facebook as a channel. But more importantly, they were in subjects I didn't really want to be doing. Like I had a fertility group, right, for example, right? So I didn't really want to do them. You know, am I feeling a resistance doing a Facebook group right now? Well, no, I'm not really feeling a resistance. I just don't really particularly have a massive desire to do one. It's not something that I feel like is going to like transform my business. So like, I don't feel like I'm self-sabotaging by not doing a Facebook group, because it's not really coming in. It's not coming into my field. I'm not thinking about it. It's just like, you know, whatever. If I was constantly thinking about it and avoiding it and being like, oh, should I do Facebook? And then like, no, I won't do one. Oh, should I do Facebook? And I was thinking about it all the time, right? I'd be taking it as a message, right? That's a message coming through from the universe. Okay, so this keeps coming through. Why am I feeling the resistance to it? And then thinking about, okay, well, is it that I'm worried about getting a whole load of trolls in that group that I don't like, or am I worried that it's going to take up loads of my time and I need to be like responding to everyone's stuff or whatever it is? Like, what stories are becoming? That was an example of stuff that you do. So think about the thing that you're resisting. Think about if there's like a valid reason for it. And then if you can't really get to like the specific thought, I would start to journal and do the 5 whys exercise, right? So I love the 5 whys. And this is where you'll get to like the self-sabotage upper limit level stuff, right? The 5 whys is you ask why am I thinking this about this thing? And then go, and why am I thinking that? And why again? And why again? And we say the 5 whys because it's usually not it's the first thing. So it's usually like, for example, say for example, oh God, live example here, guys, I haven't thought this through, right? So, because I didn't expect to say this, things just come out of my mouth, you know? I used to have this like fear that wasn't enough time, right? So like, well, why do you have that fear? There's not enough time. Well, because, you know, say for example, there's X number of hours in the day and I'm spending this many, or whatever, you could get through these different levels. But when I did this exercise on time, what I realized was all of my family, non-family, shouldn't say that. All of my grandparents and aunties and uncles, thankfully I've got my mum and dad still, passed away really young. Like I lost all my grandparents before I was like 3 of them before I was 6, a couple of them in the first couple of years of my life. Like I have this thing about like everyone's like just sort of dying around me, and so like life's quite short from that perspective. And so this it wasn't the first thing that came up. So that was just that's a random example I've thrown at you there. So yeah, serious self-sabotaging. Get to the 5 whys, and then you might then see if it's an upper limit level thing. Like, is it something that you need to push through? And maybe we'll do a part 2 on this. I'll see what comes up for me in the next week. But pop in the chat if you enjoyed that, if it was helpful. I'm getting nods. I'll take that as yes, I'm not going to think. Also pop in the chat if you've got any questions that you want me to answer before we wrap up. If not, I'm going to leave it there because we are on bang on the 30 minutes. And I do want to try and keep these to 20 to 30 minutes. I'm not seeing anything coming through. So I'm going to leave it there. Go leave that. Thank you so much for turning up live. Please hit reply to any of the emails you receive and let me know if you have any breakthroughs. I'd love to hear. And I will be back next week. If you haven't already, make sure you use your 30-day free trial in Let's Make Money Honey experience. We are live next Thursday. An email's going to go out today, actually, a save the date. We are live next Thursday where we're going to be creating the foundations to the blueprint, to creating a 6-figure business. So it's going to be a really great training. So make sure you jump inside that. And I'm going to wrap up there. Thank you so much. See you soon.